a legend and it doesn't deserve your hate. Hi, my name is Lassika from Cedros Cars. Welcome back to the channel. After a long hiatus, I'm finally back, and of course, welcome new viewer. I hope you enjoy the channel and I hope you enjoy all the car topics that I'll be talking about on it. Anyways, let's get on with the video. The Bugatti Veyron is a car that needs no introduction. Even everybody who knows that it's the fastest car in the world. But it actually wasn't built to be the fastest car in the world. Sure, it had criteria for having a top speed of 400 kilometers per hour, which is fast, but that was not its main purpose. It was meant to be an engineering exercise, a money no object, no holds barred engineering exercise in the pursuit of making the ultimate grand tourer, or a GT car, a car for crossing transcontinental Europe in style and with speed. The Bugatti Veyron has garnered the reputation of being the rich non-car guy's favorite car. It's been owned by every rapper worth his salt and his manager. It's been owned by multi-billionaire European playboys, and every oil-rich Arab has probably owned one. According to some sources, the Middle East has the highest concentrations of has the highest concentration of Bugattis in the world, and I believe that after living there for quite a while and still living there. But one thing I noticed when doing research for this video was the amount of hate the Bugatti gets from the car community. I don't know why, because looking at the reasons, they seem pretty ridiculous in my opinion, and I want to go through each of the reasons. I will go through each of the reasons and why it's ridiculous in this part of the video. One reason that a lot of car guys hate Bugatti Veyrons is because they're expensive and everything associated with them is expensive. Well, duh, it's a car that beat a world record. I think the Volkswagen Group put a lot of engineering effort into it. They use exotic materials which cost money. You know, nothing in this world is free, which is fortunate, because if everything in the world was free, nothing would be worth having. In my opinion, at the risk of offending a lot of viewers, what I think it is why people hate the Bugatti Veyron because it's expensive is pretty obvious. They're just jealous because they see a lot of people on the internet, or they see a lot of videos of people who own one, and they secretly wish they could own one too, but they can't afford it. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. I can't afford a Bugatti Veyron. None of my friends can afford a Bugatti Veyron. Nobody around me can afford a Bugatti Veyron. So why hate the car? Why hate the car? You see, there's a lot of cars I see on the street every single day that I can't afford. And of course I get angry. I feel a little butthurt inside that, I put in work as well and I can't afford nice cars. Well, you don't have to hate the car because of that, because the car is an inanimate object. It didn't do anything wrong either. So chill, honestly. Just love the Bugatti Veyron for what it is. It's an engineering masterpiece. It was once the fastest car in the world. It's a beautiful car. Don't hate it just because you can't afford one. And I won't hate it either, even though I can't afford one. Alright, it's cool. Let's move on to the next reason. The next reason, which I think is a very common reason, a lot of people hate the Bugatti Veyron, a lot of car people hate the Bugatti Veyron, it's ugly. I mean, that's subjective. You probably see ugliness where beauty lies, and you probably see beauty where ugliness lies. We're all different. But have you ever seen a Bugatti Veyron in real life? I have. And it looks spectacular in real life. The pictures don't do it justice. The pictures seriously don't do it justice. The pictures, like they say, the camera adds 500 pounds. I mean 50 pounds, but in the case of cars, 500 pounds. It looks like a big bloated piece of metal. It just looks like a big bloated blob in pictures. It looks really fat, but when you see one in real life, they are hunks. They're really beautiful cars. Really unique design. A timeless design. it still looks fresh even today. Even with the Bugatti Chiron and the 110, it looks timeless. But of course, horses for courses, right? People are gonna like what they like, and if they see the Bugatti Veyron as ugly, well, to them it'll be ugly. We can't do anything about it. So, I think I've addressed two of the most common reasons people hate the Bugatti Veyron, and why I think they're not well-founded reasons to hate the car. But with all the negativity aside, let's actually get into the video and talk about why the Bugatti Veyron is a legend. Let's kick the elephant out of the room with an iron boot and talk about the most obvious reason the Bugatti Veyron is still a legend. Well, is a legend. It's ridiculous speed. Now, since we're talking about a fast car, let's have some fast facts. The Bugatti Veyron comes with an 8-liter W16, which is like two V8s welded together, engine with four turbochargers that produce 1,001 horsepower and 1,250 Newton meters of torque. That's insane. 1,000 horsepower. It doesn't sound like a lot today. I mean, the Dodge Hellcat comes with 707, but back in the day when it came out in 2005, I believe, that was insane. No road car had ever reached that sort of horsepower figures. And next, it has a top speed of 254 miles per hour. For the English folk who use kilometers per hour, it's got 409 kilometers per hour, and it goes from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. Insane figures. They speak for themselves. Fast facts over. On to the next reason why the Bugatti Veyron is a legend. Of course, having such a powerful engine, the Bugatti actually requires a lot of cooling for it to be running effectively throughout its lifespan, which is hopefully forever since it is a legend. However, to achieve the cooling of such a powerful, enormous engine, the Bugatti engineers had to throw the rule book out. They essentially went full on extreme with this one, and they gave the car not one, not two, not even three, but 10 radiators, and each radiator serves a different purpose, from cooling the engine to cooling the occupants inside the car. Now each one of these radiators takes 15 hours to build. That's how much care goes into building one. And apparently, according to Vehicle Virgin's video on why people hate the Bugatti Veyron, he mentions that the rapper T-Pain, if you don't remember, he was basically the autotune guy. I know he's a good rapper outside of mainstream fame, but that's what most people remember him for, the autotune rapper. T-Pain owned a Bugatti Veyron, and one of the radiators failed, so he took it to be serviced, but he found out that they were really expensive since they had to be handmade in Bugatti's factory, so he ended up selling the car. Yep, a millionaire rapper actually ended up selling the car because he couldn't afford to fix a problem on it. That's how expensive the engineering gets on this. So how a radiator works is that it basically coolant flows through it, and all the heat from the engine is dissipated through the to a coolant, and that radiator simply pushes the heat out into the atmosphere. Basically, a radiator takes heat away from the engine, and a coolant is a liquid inside the engine that facilitates that heat extraction and pushing it out into the atmosphere. So a regular car would use about, at the maximum, 25 liters of coolant, maybe, but the Bugatti Veyron has double that amount flowing through its engine. It's insane how much coolant. And how much air does this engine take in? Well, according to Top Gear, James May from Top Gear, it takes in enough air at top speed in 1 minute to keep a human being alive for 4 days. That is an insane amount of air. And these radiators and the cooling system is one more reason why the Bugatti Veyron is such a legend. Anyways, on to the next reason. I think it might be pretty mind-boggling for people who know about the Bugatti's weight, but the next engineering feat that this car has achieved is building such a lightweight, strong chassis in such a unique way. The reason that it's mind-boggling to quite a few people, especially car enthusiasts, that the Bugatti Veyron has a lightweight and strong chassis is because looking at the statistics of the car, it seems pretty heavy for a supercar, which is what the general vicinity of where the Bugatti Veyron's categorization lies. But the reason it is quite heavy is because of all the luxury and the handcrafted materials they put inside the car to make it comfortable for daily driving or basically grand touring. But the chassis is actually quite special and it's quite lightweight. It is built out of carbon fiber, which is, pretty commonplace in modern supercar manufacturing, but it was quite a big deal back then. The chassis was made out of carbon fiber, but it was divided into 3 segments. One segment was the front, where the frunk was, the front trunk. There was the middle section where the occupant sat and drove the car, and there was the rear of the car where the engine was housed. The carbon fiber chassis was built in these 3 sections, and they're held together by only 14 bolts. Now, of course, these bolts are made out of titanium, which is actually a common material but very difficult to extract from the earth, which leads to its rarity. Actually, I think this might be the cheapest part of the Bugatti Veyron, since each titanium bolt actually costs $100. So yeah, think about it. The Bugatti Veyron's chassis is actually held together by 14 $100 bolts. But it works, and it keeps the car stable and together in one piece, essentially one piece at top speed, which is impressive. Anyways, now that we're done talking about the chassis, let's talk about, I think, the last engineering feat that this car has achieved, which is its air brake. This air resistance to slow the car down from its top speed all the way to 0. How? Well, it utilizes a rear spoiler that tilts a number of ways, and when the Bugatti Veyron wants to come to a dead stop, the rear spoiler extends outwards and tilts 90 degrees to basically act like a wall that the air pushing against the car can push against and slow the car down, which is pretty impressive. Now, the air resistance of the spoiler alone has the braking power of a regular family car. I don't know how they did that, but that takes a lot of aerodynamic engineering to pull off. And thanks to this, the Bugatti can actually do the 0 to 100 to back to 0 in just 5 seconds. An even more insane fact is that this air brake, coupled with the regular brakes, which by the way can operate with virtually no fade, coupled with the air brake, the Bugatti Veyron can actually slow down from 400 kilometers per hour to 0 in just, get this, 10 seconds. Mind-boggling, seriously mind-boggling. And of course, speaking of brakes, another fun thing to know about this car is that the handbrake has its own ABS system to stop it from locking due to how fast and how quick this car can go. Now, if the insane speed record, the insane statistics, and of course the insane engineering behind the car wasn't enough to tickle your fancy, and you're thinking, well, yeah, the Bugatti Veyron was the fastest car in the world, but what about things like the Koenigsegg Agera RS and what the SSC Tuatara is trying to do? Oh, and what about the Bugatti Chiron? That eclipsed the Bugatti Veyron, man. It got beat, boy. It got beat. It got its butt whooped good. Well, it did. Well, you could say it did. But here's the thing that you should actually consider. The Bugatti Veyron held its world speed record from 2005 all the way up till 2017. Well, if you ignore that little blip in history where the SSC Ultimate Aero actually beat the world record for a little bit. It held the record since 2005. Doing some quick maths, that will be 12 years. 12 years. That's a decade and a half. A little baby would have grown up and gone through middle school in the time it took a car manufacturer to build and engineer a car worthy enough of taking the Bugatti's throne. And that car was, of course, the Koenigsegg Agera RS. One of my favorite cars, don't get me wrong, I love the Koenigsegg's. But you gotta give respect, mad respect for Bugatti for engineering a car that stood the test of time like it did. And the car held onto its throne. It's like Floyd Mayweather never losing a single match in his career. It's an insane achievement, and I think the Bugatti Veyron deserves all the praise it deserves. It deserves all the praise that car journalists and the car community should be heaping on top of it. But of course, time goes on, and the Bugatti Veyron is relegated to the shadows as some tasteless, non-car enthusiast billionaire's plaything, which I really think it shouldn't be. Well, that about wraps it up for the video. If you enjoyed the video and you were convinced that the Bugatti Veyron is still a legend, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know why you think it isn't a legend. I'll be happy to read your comments and maybe even reply to them. And of course, if you are interested in how these top speed records are calculated and what the process goes on, what kind of process goes on behind the scenes, and of course what decides how fast a car goes when it comes to outright top speed, I've made a video about that called How Fast Is 300 Really, which I will link in the description or in the info bar or even in the end screen. With that being said, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please drop a like, subscribe for more content, and of course, have a great week ahead of you. Peace out. This is Lassika from Cedros Cars, signing out.